people in my community started making these this winter and hanging them up in trees, and I thought that was a pretty cool idea. And I guess the nice thing about living in Canada is that you can have these hanging up for at least 3 months of the year, since our winters get cold enough. So this is what it looks like, and because this is the first time I've ever done one of these, I thought I'd do another one, and I'm going to make a process video as I go along to show some of the tips that I've learned along the way. So let's go inside where it's warmer and get started. For this sun catcher, I'm going to use this baking pan, cake pan, and they recommend that you use distilled water so that you get clear ice, especially since this is going to be quite thick. And I don't have distilled water, but I found a tip on YouTube that you boil water, let it cool, and then boil it again, and then you can use it, and it should give you clearer ice. Now the first one I made came out pretty clear. There's a little bit of fuzziness in the middle, but it's quite thick, so I think it came out not too bad considering I didn't have any distilled water. So I'm going to use the same process for this one. I'm going to plug in my kettle, and I don't have enough water in this kettle to fill my cake pan, so I'm also going to microwave a bit more water at the same time. While my water boils, I'm downstairs in my craft room, and I'm going to pick out some of the embellishments that I'm going to use for my sun catcher. I want to pick some items that are bright in color so that they show up well through the ice. And I also want to include some natural bits. And I've got these little red ribbon roses. These are nice and bright, so I think they'll be pretty in there. Nice bright yellow flower, and there's a nice pink flower, and pine cone, and I've got some more little bits here. Now I've got some old pieces of broken jewelry that work great also, and some beads. More pieces of jewelry and a piece of necklace, some beads, a little charm, and a little butterfly. So I'm going to arrange these after I pour the water in my pot, in my pan, and I'm also going to use chain. For my first sun catcher, I had used some twine, and the twine broke. One piece broke, and it's probably because the ice was very sharp, and I think it's also probably not very, very strong twine. This is what I was using. Now there's still a piece that's holding it onto my tree outside, so I don't know how long that's going to hold for, but I'll just hope for the best. But for this one, I've decided I'm going to use a piece of chain. So my water should be boiling, so I'm going to go check upstairs. So my water finished boiling, and I poured it in my cake pan about 2/3 of the way full. And I put my cake pan in this baking sheet because it's going to be easier to transport it, because this water is quite hot. So now I can begin putting my pieces down. I'm going to start with these little natural bits, and I've got my pine needles, little twigs, and I can use a spoon to push these down. They do have a tendency to float, but they will eventually sink. And I can put my little pine cone here, and I think what I'm going to do right now is put the chain in, because I want that to be partly hidden by my pieces, although this will be a two-sided ornament, but my front part my embellishments will be on the top. So I'm going to put this under here. And I'm going to have it come out here. Now I want my chain to go down to the bottom so that it's iced in as much as possible. You don't want to just put a little piece here and here because it's not going to hold for very long. So these ends can stick out like that. Make sure they're flush against the side. And I'm going to keep adding some little bits and bobs. I'm going to put this flower here. And I've got these little red ribbon roses. And my yellow flower. A piece of necklace. Some more greenery. So I'm going to push this down. And then my little pieces of jewelry. Some of it might be sticking out of the ice a little bit, like this twig, but that's okay. And then I've got these bits of jewelry. So I don't want that there. And if some of them end up upside down, that's fine because it's going to show on the other side. And my butterfly. And I finish off with some of this beading. So now I'm going to very carefully bring this outside. So this is where it's going to spend the night. And I hope this is going to sink in a little bit. Anyways, if it floats, it floats. So tomorrow we'll see what it looks like. Yay, it's tomorrow already, so I'm going to put my mitts on and see how the suncatcher's doing. Well, it's definitely well frozen, so let's bring it inside. This is going to need a little bit of nudging to get out of the pan, so I'm going to flip it over and I'm just going to run a little bit of hot water on the back. And you can hear it cracking. That means it's separating from the sides. So I can lift and put this back on the pan. Now, because this is wet around the edges, if I put it back in my pot and put it outside temporarily, it's going to freeze again. So I'm just going to deposit it on my pan like that, and now I can have a look at it. Yeah, this turned out pretty good. And I'm going to tie my chains together. Like that. Oh, I'm lucky it just fits. And then I'm going to tie it up outside with a string. So here it is, hanging in the tree, along with my other one. So you could make these in all sorts of shapes and sizes. You could probably use some muffin tins too if you wanted to make a bunch of smaller ones to hang. And I might even move this one so it's hanging right outside my kitchen window. Anyways, have a nice day and happy crafting. Bye. I'm going inside. It's freezing out here.